I'll call this meeting to order. It is Thursday, January 23rd, 2025, and it's 11 a.m. And we're here with Forest Service updates from Holly Hampton. I'll let you
kick
take
us
it
off.
over.
All right. I have just a couple updates and then a couple items I was hoping maybe get a little clarity from you guys on.
Okay.
One was a project update, and I think maybe I mentioned it briefly last year, but we're starting to proceed quicker on it now. And I know you heard this spiel the other day being on the Shoshone-Benewah, but the forest is kicking off a forest-wide prescribed fire burn NEPA project to give us a little more shelf stock, if you will, with ground that is covered for NEPA analysis so that we can implement. So that's a big thing for Shoshone County too, because you guys have a lot of backcountry in Shoshone County, both on the Coeur d'Alene River Ranger District and then on the St. Joe side too. So this piece of ground is kind of targeted towards, again, backcountry, where in our forest plan, our primary tool to treat that landscape is prescribed fire. Not to say we couldn't harvest it, but again, the primary tool is fire. And a lot of it overlays with our road list, so that's part of it, right?
Yeah.
So it's not in some of our areas where we have a great deal of roads, and it's a little easier to access. But it covers other areas too. It's not just backcountry, but it's some of what we would frame up as like our general forest area too. So there's a fair bit that even is kind of like in this wooey country. So for example, like the burn we did last fall up at Graham, that would be considered back, like when we say backcountry. So it's a good project. It'll be an EA, but we're looking to scope here probably in like the next 4 to 6 weeks. The collaborative will get that scoping document too, so appreciate you being on that so you can maybe help with some input, whatever that might look like from the collaborative. I did bring, it's just kind of a briefing paper, so I brought one for all three of you just to kind of read through, and if you have any questions, let me know. We should have a decision hopefully in FY26. So realistically, we would be implementing the spring of 27. Now that's not to say we don't have other burning going on. That's just burning that would be covered under this document. So yeah, any initial questions or?
How many acres?
Well, so it's 4, so it's a little different than, say, it's a good question, our typical NEPA project. So say right now, we got like I-90 East, right? It's 70,000 acres of Forest Service project area. This is going to cover all those general areas across the Idaho Panhandle National Forest. So it's what we call condition-based management, NEPA. So we don't have identified polygons already. Like we're going to burn 100 here and 100 here. It gives us more flexibility, especially around change conditions. So this will set us up for the next, 10 to 15 years. And we have change conditions, right? All the time. We're talking about it right now with drought conditions. We get fires. So it gives us more flex that, what we planned for if we did NEPA for this, say, for the next 2 years with a standard polygon, well, that polygon might very well change over the next 3 years. So it gives us some of that flex. But it does set us up where we would be aiming to treat anywhere probably between 10 and 20,000 acres a year. And again, that's across the forest. That's not just Shoshone County or Coeur d'Alene River. That's across the forest. We wouldn't be able to exceed 30,000 acres though. And that would be unlikely for us to get that much target done. Because a lot of it too, and I know we spoke, but it's lining up those burn windows, right? So, but this will prepare us so that when we do get those optimum burn windows, especially for that late summer, early fall burning, we're ready to go.
And you kind of don't you just target a smaller area because you don't want to build a huge, burn like 5,000 acres.
No,
you only burn like small. What's your biggest acreage that you guys would?
Well, we don't have that information yet.
Okay.
So, but we would see larger burn units actually. We would want to see that. And again, it's because it's with the backcountry, we have a little more flex. We're not going to be bumped up right against homes or active timber sales. So we would anticipate like what we saw this year, like up the river a ways, some bigger burn units that could be, 500 acres,
Yeah.
100 acres. Now again, too, when you see those, when you have, whether it's a small burn unit or a large burn unit, it's not like it's 100% consumption, right?
Yeah.
A lot of those are optimum conditions, a lot of underburning. There'll be some stand replacing within it, but then there'll be some that's not even touched within it. So hate to put like an acreage on it because we don't have that. Again, it's going to line up with the conditions that we have.
Yeah, but for like the public, you just don't burn a huge, you burn controllable
units, yeah.
Units
And
is
so
what you
it's
do.
a controllable unit. We have control features in place to do that, whether it's roads, line, streams. And just like we do now, so this isn't like a new project. We do this backcountry burning all the time. This is just a new way of us doing NEPA to cover more ground under analysis. So we're not trying to do a new project every year, but give us, again, that shelf stock. So as far as when it comes to implementation, just like we do now, I'll surely give you guys updates, but we get out in front of it with the public with announcements. Here's where we're going. Hey, it's hunting season, so maybe anticipate a trail closure for a week if we need to. So all that will still be in place, and the public will have opportunity to be in tune to that before it's happening.
And it was kind of neat how you have people that go through there and check the moisture levels, and it has to be perfect in order for it to burn. You can't be too dry. It has to be.
Yep.
So it doesn't get. Yeah.
Can't be too wet because then you're just wasting fuel.
Yeah.
So yeah, we really pay a lot of attention. And then, I know we just talked smoke the other day too. Obviously smoke is a big issue. But in for smoke, all our smoke goes to Montana. But so we check for all of those things. Our folks out on the ground are doing a lot of homework in that 10 days up before we actually burn.
Yeah, one of the things that what I was kind of indicating that when I was talking about that is we had a visit from the DEQ on just our valley,
right?
And how because we're different than a lot of areas because we're in between a bunch of mountains, so our smoke levels do affect that meter over there in Pinehurst, and they talk about if we keep continuing the way we do, because I guess they lowered the threshold, then we may have to put an ordinance out. They were talking about of burning and things like that. So I just wanted to make sure that maybe we could, if it was at a bad time, but we could use those like forest fires. We could deduct that because they'll take a forest fire and they'll say, okay, well, this fire was between here and there, so we'll deduct those points from that. And that's kind of what I was getting at. But you guys answered the question good, because you only burn on days that are air quality, so you're watching.
Yeah, like they prove it. Like we have to go get those check boxes with smoke, and we're tied in with DEQ, and we have a smoke management group with the Forest Service. So there's a lot of extra briefings that take place to get that approval for smoke.
Yeah, I was glad you guys did that.
Yep.
Because that'll help us here for sure. So
yeah. So that is that piece. Let's see. I had one question, and maybe you guys could help me out a little bit. Just being winter season, it's been a great year for Lookout Ski Pass. So that's on the district, and I'm sure, I don't know how much you guys are tied in with management up there. But although most are down here, Lookout's sitting pretty good. So compared to last year, they're having a better year. Every now and then, whether it's somebody tied to the resort or just somebody out in the backcountry, because we get missing skiers. And probably about a month ago, there was a missing skier, and I can't remember if it was there out Lookout or just backcountry, but it was on the Montana side. It was in Mineral County. So they went through the process and, called the sheriffs. And they weren't able to respond. Mineral County, they didn't have the resources at the moment. What does that look like for Shoshone County in the event that Mineral County can't respond and it's right there on the line? Does Shoshone County, is there an agreement in place where you guys could respond?
I'm aware.
Okay.
Yeah. I know that we have a group, Kootenai comes in and helps. They have the helicopter.
Right.
And then you have Two Bear Air that comes.
Yeah.
But I don't know how, are they, I would assume they're part of that because we had those, the avalanche
I was
last year.
thinking last
And
year.
we had
Yeah.
Two Bear Air and then Kootenai's helicopter came in.
Yeah.
And we had people from Kootenai actually come in because we were in the same boat.
Right.
It's,
Needed
we
help.
don't have the resources that some of these bigger counties do.
But I was just wondering, like, but could we send folks to Mineral County? Like, if they needed that help?
You probably have to.
My fear
run
was that
by the
no
sheriff,
one needs
see
to go
if they
there.
have any.
The sheriff would be up
Sheriff,
to the
okay.
sheriff to have an agreement with the Mineral County Sheriff.
Okay.
I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can help on that. Thank you. You guys can
I'll
see that
ask
might
her.
look. Do you mind?
Hmm.
Yeah. Just because we're in that season right now,
Mhm.
particularly. So, yeah, and Lookout's always fabulous. They're right there and great to respond. But it's not always within the ski area. So, we were just kind of brainstorming on that the other day with the ranger from the Mineral County side too, on the Lolo.
Mhm.
Yeah, see what that might look like.
Yeah, I'll get back to you.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
One other update. Hopefully you guys got the word too, but RAC is a go
Mhm.
for a grant funding opportunity. So I don't know what the dates are, but there is a pretty decent pot of money now since it got delayed last year. So I know sometimes you guys look at that for
Mhm.
county work, so I thought just make sure you guys had seen that update that RAC is back on. They're standing up have a committee to stand up.
They do. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And if I get more details, I'm happy to share that forward. But I know, especially with like roads and stuff like that, you
Mhm.
guys usually probably pay pretty close attention to that.
Okay.
I'll make sure Public Works is paying attention to, has noticed that.
Okay. Next week we have hopefully our shared stewardship meeting, another follow-up. We came just before Christmas with Jeff Lau and our shared stewardship group. So I think it's you that is participating in the meeting next week.
Okay.
I'll have to look. Should have an invite. Let me know if you don't.
Okay.
But we're going to be meeting at the Smelterville office. And that's where, remember, we were talking about setting up like a focal area. And it's tied to having like the CWGD grants and what we got going in I-90 East and that cross-boundary work
Okay,
between.
yeah, that like I-90, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
between like I-90, but then just what you guys are doing on private, county, industry, cross-boundary work in general. So it's I-90 is within it, but it's not necessarily directly tied to I-90.
Okay.
So I think it's next Thursday. And I can double check that before I leave just to make sure you have that
Okay.
info. But there should be a draft boundary for us to review, I understand. IDL will be present at that meeting. And it sounds like the CWGD grant is probably like 80% there and about ready for review, so that's good.
Okay.
And again, that is something that really IDL and Bill are working on.
Okay. Okay.
That's all I had for updates. I think you guys
That's
maybe had a
pretty
dumpster update, a question?
Yeah.
I like dumpsters.
I have a question from the organization that's been trying to put the volunteer dumpsters out
Okay,
on the river,
is that friends of the,
Friends of the River.
yeah, okay.
I think that's who asked me to ask was, since there's so much Forest Service land up the river, would the Forest Service ever consider adding some dumpsters? Because, of course, their goal is that less trash is going in the river and
Absolutely.
campgrounds. So
Yeah, I know we've spoken about it before. I think for us, it's the funding mechanism
Mhm.
and to have the funds. A lot of our funds already go to just trying to keep up and maintain all the outhouses on the district,
Mhm.
and that is a good chunk of the money. But I do wonder if there's an opportunity through the RAC
Rack, that's what I was thinking.
that maybe we could look at and or look at with the Friends group. 'Cause I know that they had a dumpster that they would place out maybe on weekends or a weekend or
They have
two a
several.
month. Do they have several?
We have several dumpsters.
And we do,
Okay.
we do too as well. I mean, that might be, with the RAC grant, that might be able to help our,
Yeah, to keep it
help
going.
us keep it going each year. If we would.
Mhm.
Well, I'll mention it to them,
Okay.
what you said, and
Yeah. And I know she does, is it Dawn? She ties in with our rec staff too, so I know that they're talking on all things river corridor, such as the dumpsters, so.
okay.
How many dumpsters does the county have out there?
I think that's 4, is it? 3 or 4?
Okay.
I think that's about right.
Mm-hmm. You know, one of the biggest problems we have is places to put the dumpsters, because we got, you know, and that's what we'd like to talk to you about is, you guys have all the land up there, and it'd be nice to be able to have places we can strategically put those dumpsters,
Right.
but because we only have, you know, so much property.
Right. Well, I think that would be easy enough to do, to find a spot that's more advantageous.
Okay.
Are yours more kind of down closer to the interstate?
I think. Yeah, I think they are. I'd have to check on that.
Okay. Because I know,
Well, we have some at Bumblebee Bridge,
Okay.
right there
Yeah,
at Bumblebee.
right, yeah.
Yep, where that turnout
Okay.
is. We have some there. I'm not quite sure.
Okay.
okay.
We'll
Well,
check
maybe
on
we
it.
could look at that maybe in the springtime, look at a map and see where they are placed and then where, I can't remember where the Friends of the River is placed. Do we want to say,
So-
it's not Graham, is it?
Theirs is usually closer to the interstate. Down.
Theirs is
Yeah.
to the interstate,
yeah.
okay. So I'm wondering if, like, finding the place further up river, like near Graham, because there's a lot of use there.
And I'm sure,
And I know
the
there's
other side of the river,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
the St. Joe's we're probably running into the same issue over there.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
okay.
So we probably should start thinking about how we can service them as well.
Yeah. Okay. Do you guys find that those dumpsters get filled with, is it just recreation trash?
No, yeah,
Is it everybody?
It's
I
everybody.
mean, people who live up there dumping trash and, yeah,
That's been one of our biggest
seems like you
problems.
see furniture in there every now and then.
And we have a transfer station right out there. It's
Okay.
unmanned, and that's just been a nightmare.
Jeez, okay.
So, I mean, we're even thinking about manning it because of the fact that we are
We're just
getting stuff,
dumping.
yeah. And if we leave the gate closed,
It's right outside the gate?
that's right.
Yeah.
And then it takes, you know, the county has to expend money to move the stuff out so they can get into the, so
Okay.
that's hard.
That is hard. Yeah. Well, maybe I'll bring Judd with me to one of our spring meetings and we can look at a map. And I'll give you guys a heads up so you can kind of have your locations too, so we can look at it together.
Yeah, we like solid waste
Yeah,
here.
exactly.
Yeah.
Maybe even invite the Friends of the River since they
Yeah,
they
that's
can
all.
coordinate where their dumpsters are.
Yeah, because I think they would be more in the know, especially
Yeah.
Friends of the River, strategic spots where,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Now they're only out during the summer months. They're not out right now, are they?
I think,
I believe it's summer,
yeah, I think you're right.
Okay. Okay.
which is when the problem gets
Bigger?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
much bigger.
Okay. Well, might be earlier access this year.
Yeah. Do we have any further
No, that's all I have.
public comments?
So, you know, the biggest problem up the river, one of the biggest problems up the river was how many people's up there.
Right.
And everybody says we have Forest Service people come in here, we can't do anything with it. Is there anything that could be done? I heard that down in Ada, one of the rivers down there, they do odd, even license plates when you can be on the river.
Oh, interesting.
Hmm.
This came from Ada County. I don't remember that.
I'll ask the guy that told me.
Okay.
It was the guy who told me. We also need more police by the Forest Service,
Sure.
or at least more money over to ours, because I think it's like $50,000 to patrol over there. Not even close to what we need.
Right.
Our ambulance service needs money to patrol the federal lands, in which there is money. What is it? Title III money, I think we can use, but that's not what's being used for it. So, the Forest Service, there's a big problem over there. It's been a problem building for 30, 40 years now, and we are so the Forest Service, in my opinion, is so far beyond or behind on keeping up with this. The bathrooms, people are using the river, they're using private property, they're using federal property, they're using bathrooms. We need bathrooms, we need extra money for police. And one of the biggest things is if you can control how many people are use it, which I don't know how you do that.
Yeah, the control of people is
Yeah,
difficult because we can't charge people to come into the public land, right?
that's right.
We're set up, we're not like a national park where you know, go through the entrance. The river can become a little tricky too because we don't own the river. We don't
Right.
manage the river.
It's Idaho.
We
Right.
manage the land around it.
Right.
However, and please know, we all, including our law enforcement, feel the pinch too, and we need more enforcement out there. And
Mhm.
we talk about that agency-wide. That's not here only. But yeah, they're running ragged, and it's funny because we have, you know, between like the river and some hot points like Hayden and Fernan, they can spend 150% of their time in those areas only and never even make it out to the other 600,000 acres that we have.
That's one of the questions I always kind of have is, we have a lot of public volunteers, and I know there's a liability. That's the biggest issue that we have when we bring in volunteers is liability and what they can do and what they can't do. And I wish we could harness that public the public volunteers, because I really think that would be a great way to do some of this is volunteers. But like I said, we got to get over the liability hump and how we're gonna how we can that can be managed. But that's, I mean, I know a lot of guys that are retired that love to drive around in the hills, and you know.
Yep. Yeah, and it's not uncommon because it would be nice if the public could kind of self-police a little more. We do have across the agency and then even on the district what we call FPOs, which are Force Protection Officers. So they're not law enforcement, but they do have, they're able to say write tickets and things like that or give warnings. And it does require some additional training too because of liability, and we want to make sure we're setting them up for ultimately their safety. Our public's also different than it was even 10 years ago. You know, a lot of those encounters anymore are not pleasant.
Yeah.
So we set them, but we do have a handful of those folks on the district, and they do help us patrol more. So we have 2 law enforcement folks that are on the district, you know, that's their full-time gig. But then we have a few forest patrol officers that help as well. And they kind of help, and, you know, they're more active on the weekends when we're busier. And we see, you know, it does help when the public just sees more presence too.
Yep.
It doesn't always have to be somebody with a ticket book, but seeing more white trucks out there, I think, helps.
In a uniform.
Yeah.
Just, you know, it's funny because I think it was Horseshoe Bend. They'd always put a cop car out there that was, you know.
Nobody's always sat in that thing.
Nobody sat
I
in it,
know.
but it caught everybody that you better slow down, and everybody slowed down.
Yeah. They did.
So it is presence, I think, would be
It is. You know, and I can't remember if I mentioned this to you or not, but this fall we did some emphasis patrols during hunting season. And we kind of set up in some hotter spots in Shoshone County where we get a lot of unauthorized use with vehicle traffic. And we did it for every weekend for about a month in that prime time. And we saw a lot less unauthorized use, and it was just the presence. And we got a lot of public calling in too saying, hey, we like seeing you guys out there because for the first time in 15 years, I hiked into my spot and I wasn't blown away by somebody, you know. A lot of it too is them just giving us the opportunity to educate folks too who just really didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
I can attest to those motor vehicle use maps can be tricky to read. You know, we have a lot of roads that it might be a closed road and it might not have a gate on it, but it's still a closed road. So unless you're really using the tool, you might not know that. So that public education piece.
And
large
what,
also.
I know
Yeah.
you guys tried signs a long time ago,
Get
and
them
they
out.
just took them all out.
Yeah.
You know, just,
Just blow them up.
yeah.
It's
Yeah.
a waste of, I mean,
Well,
it's
that
full
too,
of
yeah.
holes.
Yep.
Yeah.
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 We have
Same
the
thing with
same
locks. Put a lock on, it's gone in
Yeah.
12 hours.
Yeah.
So it is unfortunate.
Mhm. It is.
So I'm not sure I quite answered the question the way you were hoping, but we kind of feel the same pinch as far as the
So
funds
it's
available.
funds for you guys.
It's funds.
Just like it is for us.
Yep.
Well, now I know why you guys are up for Canyon this fall.
Yeah.
But that's a double-edged sword too, because let me tell you this story. As lax as Shoshone County is on enforcing license plates on side-by-sides, which tear up a lot of the country, you can't even
Right.
turn them in because you can't, there's no license plates on them.
Right. Yep.
You know.
Yeah, it's a tough one. So
Anything else further?
No.
Any other questions?
Thank you for
Yeah,
taking
thank
that.
you.
yeah, thank
Thank you
you.
very much.
It's nice to
It
meet
was
you.
nice to meet
Yeah.
you.
Okay. I'll make sure maybe before you leave, I'll just make sure you have that date
Okay.
for next
All right.
week.
All right. Meeting adjourned. Thank you.
I'll let you know what the sheriff